Optager. Yeah, cool. Yeah, all right. I hope you got to use your time well and that you got a bit further with your homework. I think we have to start up now because if not, we'll run out of time. And luckily, this is all being recorded, so hopefully the guys have a bit of time on the way back in the train. All right. First of all, I just want to run you through the core principles of a full stack web application. So everything that is involved in showing you data on a website, right? And it's just kind of a wrap up of everything that you've learned so far. How the hell does this work? Yeah, all right. So a full stack web application, you've all already learned all of this, right? Is a database, like a SQL database, where you store all of your data. It's a Node.js server where you, or any other kind of server, where you interact with the database and the front end, which could be a React front, right? So this stack of software is basically what an example of what you can use to create a whole web application, right? So this is something you learned already. So at this point in your coding careers, you are now able to create whole websites, full websites, right? Which is nice. So your database, you already know this. The function of a database is to store some data and make some CRUD operations like create and read and update and delete on this data, right? And examples of databases, we've already learned SQL. And there's also something called MongoDB, and there's some other smaller databases you can use. But you already know SQL, so
yeah, we also did MongoDB.
Yeah,
only once.
Good. Yeah, yeah. MongoDB is also quite famous, and the good thing about MongoDB is that if you guys want to do something in production, which you're going to do now with your final project, MongoDB has a free tier where you can basically have a production database that you can access freely, right? Instead of having to pay some monthly subscription or some amount of money per request or something. So I think you might end up working a bit more with MongoDB, but it's also very nice, nice framework to work with. The job of your front end. Job of your front end is to display information to a user, right? So when you access YouTube, Facebook, whatever you access, what you see in the screen is the front end, right? And the only job is to display information to you and take user input, right? So the front end application is really important that you always have in the back of your head that the application should only have the information that should be shown to the user, right? Part of the application that the user has the ability to use. So any data, anything that the user should not be able to see should not be in the front end. You already know React now. You also know JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. There's also something called Angular, Vue, JS. There's a lot of frameworks you can use to create front-end web applications. And then your server, you already know Node.js now. There's also a lot of frameworks. Django is if you like coding in Python. ASP.NET is if you like coding in C#, which I don't think a lot of people do. But the job of the server is all the things that the user should not be able to see, right? So all the fetching data from the database happens on the server, responding to HTML requests happening on the server, filtering and formatting data happening on the server, authorization and security happening on the server, working with outside APIs is also happening on the server. So the server is the container that the user is not able to access, right? So anything that you don't want to display to your user happens in the server. We'll talk a bit more about this, but communication between the parts of your full stack web application, if you want to connect your server to the database, which you will, you can use something like SQL service queries, which you've already worked with, from, where, select, join, inner join. You can use Knex, which I also think you used in the Node.js. You can use MongoDB queries, which you might also have used them. And there's also a framework called SQLize. And there's a lot of ways to communicate between a database and a server. And from the server to the client, you already used REST HTTP requests. So get, post, put, delete, these kind of HTTP requests. There's also something called GraphQL, which I really like, but yeah, it looks more like a query language. And there's a WebSocket, which is basically just opening a connection between a server and a web application, client-side application, so that they can communicate all the time while you have your application open, right? So if you want to, for example, make a chat at any time in your life, you should use a WebSocket, because then you can constantly receive data and you can constantly save data. You don't have to reload the page to get the newest data. It constantly communicates back and forth, right? Now, this is the part I really want to talk about, which is good practices for a full stack web application. When you're all done, some of you might end up in big organizations where you will only be responsible for front end or the back end, and some of you might end up in smaller places where you will be more full stack developers, right? But some things to keep in mind is when you make a full stack application, like you're gonna do in your final project, I suggest you to have as much business logic as possible on the server. So say you get some data from a database, right? There's two ways to go ahead with filtering this data. If you get a bunch of users and you have to only filter off the users that are in Aarhus, right? It's much better to do this on the server instead of doing it on the client side. Because with the server, we know what hardware it's running on. We know which server we are using, and for that reason, we can expect a certain performance from the server that we can't expect from the client, because the client is running on a browser, and the browser might be on a computer, but it might also be on a phone. It might be something else, right? And also, like we talked about before, as much information, all the information that you don't want the user to see, you should only have that on the server, right? So if you don't want the client to be able to see this whole list of users, don't send it to them. Only send the part that they should be able to see. Also, authentication. I don't know if you're going to work with authentication in your final project, but if you do, all the authentication logic should be on the server, right? So the client only has this token, this weird string, which doesn't really mean anything. It only means something when you're able to decode it, and this decoding happens on the server. Again, it's really important that we make as little data as possible visible to the user, because there are users out there which aren't, nice to you. They will try to take as much from your website as possible, right?
You could use a Firebase.
Yeah.
Google Firebase.
Yeah. Then it's already handled for you, which is good. And something else I want to just talk about quickly is also the single responsibility principle. So when you sit down and you start doing your final project, especially in your server, I want you to think about that every module in your server should only have one responsibility, right? So what this means is when you're creating your server and you have a file, this file should have one purpose only. So you don't want a file which fetches some users and it also fetches some meals and something like this. It makes your code very not readable. So try to always have in mind that every module in your server and in your client should only have one responsibility. This is a good way to communicate with our fellow developers. We always know when we go into this folder, this file, this module, we know what the purpose is. So if we're looking for a bug somewhere, it's easy to just go to files and okay, users and get users, because I know that my bug is within this functionality. There's a lot of principles when you're coding. Like in university, we have like years and years and years of classes just talking about principles. But this is a basic one that I think it's always good to have in the back of your mind. So I just want to give you an example of a full stack application and where we process what, right? So I want to make a website for a hospital. And this is basically for the staff in the hospital to be able to get some data on some patients. So there are three kinds of users. There's receptionists, there's doctors, and there's psychiatrists in my hospital, right? So the receptionist should only be able to see the name, birthday, address, and contact information of the patient. They don't need to see any medical journals. They don't need to see my social security number, anything like this. The doctors, they should be able to see my social security number, and they should be able to see my medical journals, obviously also my name and these kind of things. And the psychiatrist should be able to see journals from my psychiatrist sessions, right? The doctor shouldn't know about what I'm telling the psychiatrist. Only the psychiatrist should know, and vice versa. This person shouldn't know my medical journals. So first of all, this application needs to know who is accessing the pages, right? And the way we do this, it's with authentication. So you go to the page and you log in, you have your email, your password. And when you log in, your server here gives the client a token. And this token is, as we talked about before, it's just a basic string. It means nothing to you. If you read this string, you will not be able to get any information from it. But the server knows how to decode it, and it knows how to get your user ID, if that's what you use as identification on a user, right? So all the authentication happens on the server. So you give some input, an email, and a password here on your client, and you make an HTTP request to your server. Your server then goes into your database and looks for your user. And when it finds your user, it will check your email and your password if it matches the data it has in the database on the user. And if it does, it will send you a token, which is a really weird string, right? And every time you access a page from this point on, you will send your HTTP request, and you will send as a header, you will send this token. So every time you access a page, the server knows exactly who you are. Now the server knows who you are. So now we should limit what patient information the user should be able to see. And you can think of this like an if statement, right? If user dot receptionist, if user dot doctor, if user dot psychiatrist. The functionality or the way to code it is quite easy. But the thing that we have to make certain is that all of this happens on the server, not on the client. Because if it happens on the client, there is a chance that the user who's accessing this page will be able to mess with the information, or will be able to read some of this information. And we don't want that to happen. So whenever we access a new page and the server knows what kind of user you are, it should limit the data here and only send the data to the client that the client should be able to see. So that's just a little information about where in this full stack we do what, right? Because it's also, if you are front-end developer, if you're really capable in React and feel comfortable in React, it's really easy to just make a very simple node request and just start filtering the data on your client side, right? Because we are more capable there. We like working in React better, but it's something to keep in mind that we shouldn't do that for two reasons. First of all, we might end up giving information to the user that they should not be able to access, and two, we don't know if this user is accessing from a very poor hardware device, and it might end up taking a lot of time to load this page because you have to process a lot of data. We don't want that to happen. Just to give a last example of how your web apps will end up working, right? Say we go to a website, just as an example. I want to go to my documents, Google Docs, right? Yeah. So say that Google Docs is made in React and Node.js and SQL. What happens is when you have a setup like this, SQL, Node.js, React, we call it a free-tier web application because basically there's 3 machines running. One machine has your React app, there's one machine that has your Node, and there's one machine that has your database. And what happens is I put in a URL like this, and this URL calls the application where I have my React app. And this React app will then take this application and say, okay, I need to get some data from the server. And the server then gets some data from the database, which it responds to the Node server. Then the Node sends this data to React. And then React will create some HTML, some JavaScript, and some CSS that it will then send back to you, right? So that's the communication protocol of a full stack. So it's not always certain that everything, when you make React, it's not always certain that everything that you have in your React app will be sent to the user. But it's way more complicated what is sent to the user and what stays on the web server. So always have as much business logic as possible in your Node.js or whichever backend service you use. Always have as much of your business logic there as possible. I hope it makes sense for you. Now you're going to be working with full stack. So how do I get this to go away? Yeah, so I hope it makes a bit sense to you that we try to take a step back and kind of look at the whole stack as a and try to see what principles we can implement in this stack. All right, now to something more close to the code, right? Just the last little bit of information about React. So far, you've learned a lot about React. One thing that we haven't really gone over yet is routing. Like when you access a web page, you can write something like facebook.com/friends, facebook.com/nothing, which is your index page, and so on, right? There's different pages on your web application. Every time you put in a new URL, your browser will make a new request and get some new HTML, some new CSS, some new JavaScript. And the way we implement this functionality in React could be, doesn't have to be, but could be with this React router DOM. There's a web page that you can use when you want to implement React router. Here, which has a lot of tutorials, a lot of documents, but the core functionality is that in your root folder, so your main.jsx, you use this router to make a router object. And this router object, when you want a very basic functionality, has a path. So this is what you write in your browser, right? You write localhost / and that brings you to your index file, this one. And the elements that should be shown when you access this URL, you pass here. And then you can add a new path. I've added one called hello. And this basically just return a div that says hello world. And basically all the routes you want within your application, you can put in this router array, and then you use this router provider to then provide all the routes in your application to your DOM, right? So I should see here. I have my index page. This is the cat application we did at some point. And if I write /hello, it brings me to this empty hello world page, right? When you want to navigate between these pages, you can see, where did I put it? Here, yeah. You can use this use navigate hook, which give you this navigate object, or this navigate function, and you can then add to your buttons or your functions or whatever. You can add this navigate, and you write the URL of the page you want to navigate to. So I just added a click me button, and it also brings me to the hello page. The router also has, let me see. This is the very basic functionality, right? But there's a lot of things you can do with the React router. You can also pass things in your URL. So say you don't want a list of users, you want a single user, you can also add an ID to your path, which you can then collect in your component, and you can use it to get some data, right? You can also make a stack application, which is basically you put pages on top of each other, right? So you may go from your index to your user to a specific user, and then you can start popping your stack. So you start going down in this view stack you created. There's a lot of things you can do with the React router. And this is one of many frameworks for routing in React. So when you start working on your final project, you can choose to work with this. You can also choose to work with React Stack Navigator. There's a lot of frameworks you can use when you want to.
Browser role in our
yeah
already.
Yeah. Yeah, you also very yeah, you can use that. Yeah. But this is just an example of a router in React. And as I said, there's a lot of things you can do with this router. There's different ways of navigating. There's a lot you can do. So I think from here, Thomas is going to come at some point, and he's going to tell you a bit about the refs. Until then, maybe we should do the news app.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah, but you can also do the
No, I will do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The links, I'm curious, like, so first we need to, if we want a link to exist, we write it in the inside router constant. And when
Yeah.
we want to link it, we use navigate hook. And what happens if we navigate hook? So we have links between each other, like I click here, I go to the other page, but we don't put it inside the router. What happens then? If we only create connection between pages,
I mean,
and then user manual, for example, take types into this area.
Yeah. I mean, if I just put some random text in my URL, right, I'll just get an unexpected application URL.
Actually, I mean, like, for example, you did it like you linked, if you click on the get picture,
Yeah.
you are redirected to the hello world page, for example.
Yeah.
So you program like this. But what happens if user manually inputs hello world address on the
Yeah, it's gonna work fine.
it's gonna work, right?
Yeah. And you can also,
Without this inside router.
yeah. And I think you already know from HTML, you already know the links, right?
Yeah.
So something like this. Yeah, if you make a redirect in here, it should also work. This is just a way of navigating. You don't have to use this hook or this function. So yeah, you can route between the pages however you want. The smart thing about Navigate is, I think, it keeps a history of your stack, your view stack. So as you navigate around your application, it's gonna remember where you came from, where you went, so that if you want to make a back button or anything like this, you can implement it with Navigate. I think you can just write navigate -1. And this basically just means, okay, go one back from where you are now, right? So if you can access the hello page from 2 pages, let's say we have a page with cats and we have a page with dogs, and both of them have a button that navigates to this page, we can make a back button that says navigate -1, and it will send you to wherever you came from. So
Like current folder.
yeah. So that's why this navigate function is quite smart to use. But again, there's a lot of navigation frameworks, and you don't have to use React Navigate. I'm a big fan of some of the other frameworks. When you do your final project, you can kind of research which frameworks are available and just pick the one that calls to you, right? All right. The news app.
Yeah, we can do something.
Yeah.
My question is, how much should we?
Just, I guess, as much as possible, right?
Yeah.
You want to? I'll just.
We also say about Redux anything or just nothing?
Did we have anything about Redux?
So maybe not. Maybe not without Redux.
Yeah.
Probably like these steps.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. 1 second, just delete everything. So we have prepared for you an exercise to just basically create a news app, which should have an overview screen on the main page. And in that overview page, you're going to have multiple news items, which basically will be an image, some title, and some other information. And what you have to do is when you click on a news, it's going to open on a new page, a new URL with all the details about that news, because there is more than just an image and like some short title. And you should also look into an API such as newsapi.org for this. This is just something quite simple to test this React router and to just play with it, and also some API calls. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
Happy coding. You're free to do whatever you want. Just some basic guidelines.
Yeah, I think that's the main point of this exercises. We're not giving you very clear steps. So this is more about you guys taking this core functionality and then implementing it without knowing that you have to then make this component, and name it this and do this, right? This is more, it's up to you how you solve it. So you show what you've learned so far and be creative with it.
Yeah, and this can also happen like during an interview. They're just gonna give you a broad idea, a broad project, and the interviewer wants to see how you're gonna think about it, how you, how you judge, and how creative can you be, and sometimes they miss like some details on purpose just to see this.
Right?
Yeah.
So with the work on that, we have lunch around 2. So whenever there's natural.
Yeah. Then let's see if Thomas is coming. If not, I don't know what to say about refs.
So we should be coming because like
Okay.
we said like 2 at the next.
Oh, yeah. Good. Then you can talk about refs.
So the news article was like really huge. So I just started filming when you said it.
Yeah. Yeah, I should have said something about.
It was a really nice presentation about the whole full stack.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah, but I think maybe.
I mean, you could have gone way more details, but
Yeah, but
just confused.
yeah.
It's fine. Like, I didn't want to interrupt you to add stuff because
It's also like different organizations will have different concepts. It was just to give them an idea of.
Yeah.
All right. I want to see, because I have not really used React Router, so I want to see how they handle the
I've never used it.
params. Use params. Yes.
It's with like slash and user ID.
Yeah. Yeah, let's try to see if I can just make an example of it.
Like extend your screen and not duplicate it, because maybe it's better for them to see the assignment on the project.
I don't.
I don't know how to do it, but maybe.
It should be okay. Hopefully they are only looking at the news app. And if not, they'll see how many errors I made. We shall find.
What plugin do you use for code generation? Like code auto suggestion?
Yeah, it's what do you call it? Copilot.
Oh,
Yeah, it's really nice. So it's actually an AI.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know about it, but I'm not
Yeah.
allowed to use it
I know.
No.
I love it. It's so good.
because it's amazing. Like you just basically just press tab and it's working.
Yeah, so nice. It is totally changed the way I program. Like within the last, yeah.
The steps I just started.
Yeah.
I just take a picture of it so quickly so you can go.
I can just put a picture of it on the like
No, that
class 24.
that's possible.
What was I doing? Oh, yeah.
Playing with router.
Yeah.
So what do you try? Go back, stuff like that.
No, I
Or
think
just do with your parameters. Just
yeah, I want to try to implement the use params. What the
get baited.
and how to implement the params in the router?
Alright, it's like this. This is
Ah, yeah.
yeah, it's like in backend. It's accident bit doing emergence.
So, mm,
Nice, it's good.
yeah. So let's just see. Just to show some basic.
Maybe it's cached.
Is there any yours?
Just don't.
Do you have to wait it or?
I'm not sure. But are you using this hello world?
Oh, yeah, of
Because
course.
it created now it's
Oh yeah, of course I have to implement the. Let's see if Copilot knows. Yeah. Yeah,
That's why it's gonna-
I'll just show them. All right, guys, just before you continue, just I realized I might want to show you a bit more of the React router just so that you know. So as we talked about, you might want to pass some params in your URL. This basically means that you can have something in your URL that is not static data. It can change, right? So it can be any kind of string you want it to be. So I've made something like I've made some really stupid code, right? I've made this hello URL, and then after the hello URL, I put a number. So this number is a param. It doesn't have to say a colon number. It can be any kind of string I want it to be. And then in the component that I navigate to, I can use this use params hook, and I get number from the use params. And this basically means that, as you see, my URL here is hello/5, and I will be able to access this param. It could also be something like this, right? So this is a way you pass information between different components and different, different components in your app when you navigate. So feel free to use this. This is a good thing to use this in your news app, I'm sure. Right? Yeah. So in my main, before it just said path hello, right? But now after hello, I've added a / number. So this is the name of my param. And inside of my component here, this is how I access the param with use params, which I get from React Router DOM. And yeah, so it's very simple to use, hopefully. So for example, in your news app, you might want to send an ID for a news page. And then with this ID, you can access the specific news that you want to access and then show it to the user. Right? Huh? I'm not sure what I think params is an object. So if I just say let number equals use params, I don't need to use the destructuring, I'll just get some kind of object. And also you can have multiple params, right? So you might say something like hello / number / number 2. No, this is not a random. This is the number I passed in my URL. I'll show you again just in a second. Let's see. Yeah. So it's not random, right? Because I passed it in my URL here. Right now, this is the number component. No, not sorry, number variable.
So whatever you pass to the input, the page will exist.
The URL, yeah. When you pass something to the URL, you can access it with use params, and then you can use it whichever way you want. I think often when you go to web apps, web applications, you will see your URL is not just facebook.com/ something, right? It's facebook.com/ this, a lot of information, and that's all the params that you pass to the web server. Yeah. Yeah.
When you're explaining how the sense,
yeah, this URL is accessing the web server, right? It's telling React, okay, I want this page and I want you to use these params. So this doesn't have to have a server. This is just for the front end. Yeah.
Is it possible for the front end to have the same port number as the?
No. They need to run on 2 different ports. So you know, a port is where your application runs. So you cannot have 2 applications accessing the same port. They have to have different ports. This is also going to be much easier when you work with like a full stack, that you know where to access server data and you know where to access client pages.
Okay, so when we are fetching the data,
Yeah.
We have to specify the subtypes.
Yeah. So at least when you work on it on just your own computer, not in production, right? So usually you'll do something like fetch localhost .3000 / something, right? In React, and then React will run on something like this, right? 5173, something like this. Yeah. So hopefully that makes sense to you all how to use the params.
Is this good?
Hmm?
Is this good?
Yeah, hopefully. If not,
We're here to help.
yeah.
And Thomas will be here soon also. So.
Since the first time I will be to make sure everything is okay for all those people.
Yeah, but this exercise is also a bit more open and up to the interpretation. Also, I think they might need us a bit more. Let's see. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's actually easier when you just get to solve it already.
But it's
Yeah.
It's not more and more moving to details.
Yeah. And it depends on your organization. Some, if you work in a big organization, you're gonna have like a very, very clear.
Defined.
Yeah. Like that, you're gonna have a Jira with all the box, and you just have to copy. But if it's like, for example, in my work, I just get told, okay, you have to make something like this, and then I just have to figure out how to solve it. Right? So you can end up with both situations.
You see the hotspot. Is that still called hotspot?
And then my passport and sport member. Is where I work.
It's like an app for clubs and like small organizations.
Yeah. Like sports organization.
Yeah, sports organization. Like 10 teams or more and they need a place to manage their members and events.
Yeah, pay the subscription.
Yeah.
You know, all kinds of things.
Yes, I knew how to do what to do because to go see the games like almost they were playing like a Series 2 game and I just went to watch it.
Yeah.
And I want to go see like the youth teams as well, like just to it's kind of exciting to go and see them. Maybe it's good research for your work as well. No, but it's just nice to go and.
We almost don't have any football teams left in Denmark. Because all of
What do you mean? I thought that was the thing.
No. Really? Like abroad, yeah, but in Denmark, no, because like we started You know, when we started working on the app and on the application, right, we had like discussions with DBU as to have some kind of partnership going and import games and such. And they were like, yeah, of course, let's look into it. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, they make their own version of Pulse. Yeah, so all the football teams basically have DBU things for come. Those bastards.
I saw it somewhere.
Yeah.
Og så tager de også en frie, ikke? Ja, det er fint.
Men ja, så i Danmark er det mest alle andre sportsgrene. Og så i udlandet der er det også med til fodbold.
Okay. Nå, ja, okay, så stadig sådan tennisforening.
Alt muligt tennis, badminton, altså alt. Floorball, sindssygt med floorball, gymnastik.
Så var det derfor, jeg så det.
Ja.
Det var et eller andet sted herinde, hvor jeg så det.
Det kan også være, at jeg også har lavet den der side der. Det ligner faktisk en af vores. Hvis du scroller ned i bunden, det er der står Powered by Holsborg. Der er mange af dem.
Og laver også...
Vi er gerne med at lave en CMS for et tid. Altså sådan ligesom WordPress har vores egen version.
Men det kan være, det er den anden.
Ja,
men så okay, det er fodbold åbenbart.
ja, så er det en fod tilbage.
Jeg kan godt lide den her integration, som der er ofte på hjemmesiden. DSK, de havde den, og man kan se i kampen.
Altså de har jo ikke til at stille 2 gange. Det er jo rimelig. Ja, men der er en masse, der er helt vildt meget. Vi laver faktisk meget lidt tid. Hver gang man laver sådan en hel webshop med produkt. Altså holdsæt med logo og sponsor og sådan noget. Rollen med.
Så skal du spille der spiller AGF's ligahold.
Ja. Altså det er i hvert fald gratis, kan man sige.
Jamen, det er jo selvfølgelig for nok af.
Ja. Jeg skal bestille
spille den på. Nå, ja. Jeg skal bestille. Hvad skal du bestille? Hvem spiller den?
Altså Viborg spiller jo meget igen. Viborg er Viborg.
Skal du bestille den med?
Ja, selvfølgelig.
Nå,
Ja, Viborg.
jeg er også opfyldt i Viborg.
Jeg
er ikke så meget. Det er jo sådan et spørgsmål.
Jeg kan sindssygt godt ud af se en vores fremmedkamp. Det har aldrig været. Det tror jeg, det er super sjovt.
Det er også sådan lidt...
Lidt en kult.
Ja.
Det var altså en ja.
Nej, det er lige... Og det er også lidt fri.
Ja. Det var homeschooling til det.
Men det er jo
Ja. Ja,
hvad er det? Men altså, der er den her sport.
Det er også der er den 3. division nu.
Ja, det er ikke sådan en Danmark-serie.
Jeg tror, de lavede om, så det er Superliga er først, den anden 3. division, og så er der så Jylland til. Så det er det ved jeg faktisk ikke.
Så når det er bedst i en, så er det bedst i en.
Danmark til, ja.
Men okay, så efter Danmark, så bliver det bare serie. Det er 1, det er 2, 3.
Don't know. Ja.
Okay, you take it.
Ja. The captures this I'm not a robot. Even either the capture thinks that you are a robot, but this is the music, yeah. Okay. Registering the new supply page.
How can we get to that?
Yeah, that's the question, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I think
You can use. Not sure if you can use the free one.
individual, I'm not a robot. Yeah, same thing here. You did not pass the captcha. Hmm. Hello.
I guess should be API key.
Okay.
Because from you.
Yeah. We'll just all of us use the same API key, so it's going to be in the Slack channel.
What?
We will send an API key in the Slack. Yeah, so
Which
you can
is
just use it.
+24.
How many times we have to?
I think every time you make an API call, you have to pass the API key.
Yeah.
So, but
I think you have unlimited.
Yeah.
yeah, maybe, yeah.
I don't know.
Let's see.
Probably.
I hate it.
Yeah, that's why.
No, maybe you can.
Which method?
It didn't ask me for any card details, so as many as you want until it crashes.
At that time, I'll just make an API key and then we'll start using it.
Yeah, I think the capture doesn't work because everybody's on the same Wi-Fi,
Yeah,
and maybe it's the same IP for everybody.
yeah,
For
maybe.
each
Yeah.
server, so maybe.
But yeah, you just take the API key in the Slack channel and just pass it here, right? Where it says API key. Lunch.
Yeah.
Not there, huh? I'll walk you through. It's my solo one. And then I feel the fish. Push the API. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm not anymore because I found out that's the problem. It's sometimes better to say it.
Yeah,
out
yeah.
loud. So you can.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Your keys. Or go to HTTPS. You need to have a meta, you need to have a meta table. And,
Choose
Space
table.
here.
The developer posture.
Yeah, developer pass. I just, I have the.
Thomas, what's your name? I want to get API. I mean,
You know, you're going to do AOL.
you know, I get so many spam emails that I'm tired.
You need a.
Your email program. Choose a password.
You can have so many mailboxes
Thomas 2023.
and then just have the spam be delivered.
I'm an individual. Not a robot. I agree to return. Submit myself. You did not pass the captcha.
Probably because of the Wi-Fi, because everybody's on the Wi-Fi. The IP might be the same.
Yeah,
So,
we put the API key in the Slack. So you can just,
Can I just use that? one?
yeah, you just see it.
Where is it? What is this?
Class 24.
One API key.
Yep.
So now I have the API key. Now I have JavaScript key. Everything looks good. This one, and then I just need to do some changes in the basics. Okay.
Think that was enough.
I'm gonna make it come up with it.
make some space for you.
Always sit here with your back, that's okay. Your back sits on the mouse. Thank you.
So, it's like you put it on. If I say it's
Really wants. Minus the language.
Yes.
will.
Yes.
With one folder. I wrote the code, I just put the API in it.
You have to rename it. Rename it. News overview of JSX.
Because I feel. Just the best.
Or is it because I'm on the wrong account or something? You already like that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you're scripting. Looking from the.
You actually run that application?
Okay, so actually the one I did was because I got this job. Why are you transforming? Number 6 months. Less of this you have to know than the magic. Fail to resolve imports actions from source. There is
Yes.
fail to resolve import actions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hã? Nå ja, den kan vi godt bare smide på. Bare sådan. Nå ja, ja. Det tror jeg. Det er, når man skal sidde i toget. Jeg ved godt, for en... hvad hedder det? Ellers hvad det er. Ja. Yeah. All right, guys, eat some lunch, and then 14:50 we are back coding. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Mind if I change?
Hey.
No, you cannot.
What are you working?
I'm just checking some homework. Might as well.
Den store krydder, vil du have, jeg tænker på? Nej. Altså, vi har brug for folk til at arbejde i Netto også, ikke?
Nå, det var det. Jeg tror på folk, der arbejder. That's what I'm doing. That's That's 5. 5 is like Android now. Android? Android kan niet dat mij er maar enter. Je moet nog. Waar weet je dit nou? Oh, dit is Is that 5? Yeah, that's Android. I am looking for something cute. Look. You know what? I will be a man and I just go for the sheep. I start crying in a bit. Yeah, I do something. The usual.
How do I turn up my camera while I'm eating? Stop video. Yes.
Can you stop recording?
I think René is the one recording. Er det ikke der optager?
Jo. Pause. Pause. Cut.
Might work, I don't know. And if not, I think we are just all like robots here. That might be the problem.
Works.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Yeah.
Remember to restore the
So guys, if you want to use the API, one thing you have to do is that when you register on the news API site, it's just to change your password to like a hotspot on your phone just quickly. Because when we all access the page from the same Wi-Fi, it thinks that we are trying to hack the page or something. So just quickly change the Wi-Fi to your 4G or whatever, and then change it back when you're done. And if you don't have data, then we can supply. Du kan tale om refs på et tidspunkt. Jeg må også godt sige nej, men okay, cool. Så tænker jeg bare en halv time før, eller sådan noget. Jeg tror også, du har nogle ting, du skal køre igennem, René, før vi stopper.
Jo, men det kan jeg bare gøre til sidst.
Ja, så vi stopper bare en halv time før 16, så tager vi lige noget lidt mere teori, og så
Jeg skulle bare lige bruge 5 minutter, det kan også bare det efter. Altså,
Ja.
Der er jeg sådan lige.
There's like other things with the that annoyed me with Next.js.
Yeah.
So like for some reason, something within the framework made me unable to use the window.
Yeah, you can do that one. It's client side. I mean,
Yeah.
just the use client in the top and then it fixes that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I did like a whole hack. But other than that, it's really nice. And the Vercel, the page for putting it into production is really, really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw even the sorry, jeg så selv der var et andet framework, jeg skulle ind og SVR bruger også Vercel til at production og sådan noget til deres documents. Det er virkelig cool.
Jeg brugte det endnu til, men så vi skiftet over til customer key, fordi det
Ja.
$100 per developer per måned.
Ja, okay.
Men der er hobby plan, som er gratis, og det er sådan, at det passer på den.
Ja,
Så det er under.
helt sikkert.
Tænker, at det eneste, jeg skal til repository også er forbindelse til MongoDB. Så vi, hvis de kloner repository, og så går deres MongoDB URL, så det vil se, om det bliver.
Vi kan bare lave en .ini til den til starten, hvor der bare ligger et empty, altså en tom streng. Jeg tror faktisk allerede, jeg har sådan en Mongo index fil liggende, hvis det er.
Okay.
Jeg vil lige smide.
Jeg også overveje, om vi skal bruge
Europe. Sådan her.
Har du et projekt, jeg kan arbejde for?
Ja, du må gerne lægge den her. Den her.
Okay.
Du må gerne bruge den her. Det er den der med katte.
Super.
Jeg ved ikke, om det hjælper noget som helst. Om der er nogen som helst sponsor på Rust.
Ja, det ved jeg ikke. Kigger vi på.
Det er i hvert fald den der random cats.jsx.
Hvor er plusset igen? Når jeg skal når jeg skal gøre det større.
Den her.
Okay.
Og så det der, det er min main. Okay, det er svært, eller hvad? Den her.
Ja.
Det der, det er sådan den der main.
Okay.
Nå. Jeg prøver lige at newshare. Ser det godt ud?
Okay.
Alright.
Okay, everyone, I was told to say something about refs.
Yeah, reinforcement.
Reinforcement? No. Do you know about ref? Use ref, the hook. Have you heard about that?
Yes.
Yes, you have heard about it. What can you use it for? Any ideas?
Wait.
For input. What do you mean, like for an input HTML element? Yeah, so let's say I'm editing the random cats now. Say I make an input field here. And I should probably wrap it in a label. And then I will call it ref controls. It could be a checkbox. It could be any other input, right? What would you suggest?
I know only case when people use it not for checkbox like input.
or like a text input. Let's try a checkbox. Maybe I will screw it up and it won't work. We'll see. So one use case is if you want to have direct access to the DOM, right? Because React doesn't really give you access to the DOM. And if you're using React in a browser, it's sometimes, very rarely, you will need to access the DOM directly. And this is where you can use a ref. And I think that it's, and I'm never sure about that, but I think it is, hang on, how do I make this bracket, these brackets again? Yes, like that. Oh, it doesn't actually need a bracket. Now the question is it use ref or create ref? I never know. We'll try. I think it might be use ref. And then each sort of native HTML component, it should have this ref property. You see, it already suggests me this one. It's something that React sort of builds into the native browser components. And now I can say, I want this one to be trademarked. Oh, Jesus. Yes, like that. I want this one to have the input ref. And I mean, okay, it's not defined. Well, that's a good hint. I should probably, yes, very good. I see you learn. Okay, so, well, it doesn't do anything, right? It's just, I just registered like a ref and React now stores this DOM element sort of in this ref. So this is basically all that happens. If you use the ref property on a native HTML element, so I can't just use it on, let's say, fancy border, right? That shouldn't work because fancy border doesn't have the ref. Well, it does work, but it's probably going to fail to compile. Oh, no. Anyways, it's not going to give us the DOM element on the fancy border because the fancy border is a custom component. Right? It's not an HTML component that already comes with HTML, but it's a custom component that we made. So that means all of the props that are on this component, we have to define and implement ourselves, right? So it's only useful on input component, like not input components, native HTML components, like HTML tags. You learned about that in module 1, right? Way back. Okay, so now what I want to do is I can change the checked state, for example, of this input. So let's say when I add a cat, I also want the input to be checked. So in my add cat function, I will say if input ref dot current. So this is one like specific thing about refs is that they have this current property. So it's not like you get the value on the main variable, which is input ref, but the variable is always like the content is always on this current property. So you're only ever interacting with this current property. So now if it's defined, I will say input dot current dot checked. So let's see if this works. Yeah, so when I add a cat, it also checks the checkbox, right? And then I can even take it further and I can say if it's defined and it is not checked, then I want this to be true, else if it's defined This keyboard. Okay, why doesn't it like this? Operational statement expected. Oh, one bracket too much. All right. So why do I do this input ref.current check all the time? Like, Can you explain this to me, why I do this?
In this case,
Okay, so the reason is that since React renders your HTML, when we get to this point where we want to access the current property on this ref, it might be undefined, right? Because React might not have rendered your page yet. It might not have assigned the input DOM elements to the ref yet. So you always have to check if it's defined. This can be done more elegantly by, yeah, I guess you could probably do, well, let's keep it like that. I think it's reasonable enough. You could make like 2 ifs, or you could use like a question mark operator, but I think it's fine like that. And so now it will toggle, right? Cool. Does this make sense so far? Oh yeah, I didn't explain that part. So this is, I mean, you might have seen something like input type text. And then obviously on the text input, we don't have the check property, right? Because the check property, it only exists on checkbox inputs. So this is basically equivalent of saying something like this, right? So, oh, no, I don't want to enable dictation. So now let's say we have a text input instead. So I can, okay, now it's always unchecked because this one needs to be changed, right? Copilot doesn't really know how to set brackets and, and quotation marks. What a cute cat. Yeah, so now we're changing the text, and what we did, like what did we do differently? We don't use the checked attribute, but we use the value attribute. Right? So on a checkbox input element, you have the checked property that you can use to determine the value of the checkbox. On the text input field, you have the value that you can use to determine the value of the input. Does that make sense?
Maybe you remember when we used forms previously, and we also, when we have a value inside the form, it's the same thing, right? It's if you have a checkbox and you need your check status to be some kind of state, we also write check equals and then the state you want, right? And the same thing for input text is like value is some kind of state or some kind of constant, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
The current is an object. It is the DOM element. So if we console log this, so if we console log this, actually Chrome in the console, it just displays the HTML tag, right? It just says input type text here. And then maybe we can somehow inspect this further, I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, that is actually a really good point because refs cannot only be used for DOM elements, right? In this case, we use a built-in property of React that's called ref to assign the DOM element of this input to the ref. But refs, they are agnostic. Like that means you can use them for any use case that you want. So so let's say we want to store the date that the page got loaded, right? So let's say we say current date or like loaded date equals, yeah. And now, like, what would you traditionally do? Would you make a state, right? Like, let's see what happens when we make a state. Okay, so we make a state and we console log, not we console log, but we display the date here, right? To string. It's a very good idea, Copilot. Okay, so now we see this is the date that the page got loaded, but hang on, if I wait. So this works because we set it as the initial states, which never changes. But let's say we have something that changes the state, right? Like we have set load. This is a really bad example. Yeah, I didn't prepare a good example. So let's say we have this. Oops, yeah, thank you. Thanks. Because so that would mean the date always changes, right? Because the date is a state and states are inherently designed to change and to re-render the page. So whenever the state changes, the page re-renders, but we only want to store this loaded date. We don't want to do anything with it. So what we can do is we can have a ref that is a loaded date, and we should probably use create ref in that case, I guess. I'm not sure though. Let's see if it works. And then I think, can we pass it something? Let's see if we can. I don't think this works. That might be true. Let's see. Okay, so now it also updates because we do it in this function, and this function also changes other state. But let's say we do this. So what I do is when I add a cat, I only assign a new date to the ref, right? And you see it's not even rendering, right? So the advantage of using a ref is that it's not going to trigger a re-render. So let's say you want to store some business logic, basically, like maybe you have not a date, but maybe you have like an exchange rate or something like that. So when the user clicks a button, you want to do some calculation based on that exchange rate, but you don't want the whole page to re-render just because the thing changed, right? So then you can use a ref to store some state that your UI is not dependent on, right? So it's state that you don't need to display and always be up to date on the page, but it's something that you want to store. Then you can use a ref for that as well. I'm sorry that I don't have a good example right now, so it's probably doesn't really make that much sense to you, but maybe at some point you'll run into this and you'll be like, oh, it's actually kind of annoying. The component re-renders all the time. If only I had a thing where I could store my variable without re-rendering, then you can use a ref. I think that's all.
Yeah. Done with the
I
most
think
important
so, yeah.
parts.
Done with the stuff.
Okay. Share the screen. Yeah, we can start.
Yeah, so can you mute
Well, just 5 minutes. Want to share some important plan things, and also you, Matthew, you staying on, yeah, to listen in. Be good. I'll share my screen. Where are my slides? Okay. Matthew, you're still here, no? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Wait, can you see this? Okay, class 24. Some important dates, updates about the coming months. Okay. May 14th, so next Sunday, we do React review / working on meal sharing / whatever you guys had on the agenda. Right? Yeah. Or Julian. Lucas. Anybody? Okay, we're gonna talk React. Yeah, finishing it up. Work a little bit on meal sharing. Maybe go through some concepts about React you find most difficult. May 22nd is gonna be Git 2. So refreshing a little bit on Git, introducing some more advanced things about Git, and then prepping a little bit for a final project, setting that up. No? What? Maybe. I'm not sure. He just wrote that he might be in the US, so it might be Mahir and maybe Ines. Who knows? It's gonna be somebody here. Okay. Important new stuff. May 22nd at midnight, there's homework deadline. Okay. Actual requirement is 3/4 of all homework needs to be submitted. Ideally, all of them for your own sake, to practice, to have contributions to GitHub for your own learning, right? But at least 2/3 needs to be submitted by then, including the meal sharing app. So that's the Monday, right? Yeah, it's the day after 3 weeks. Yes. 2 weeks. 2 weeks and a little bit. Yeah, well, basically 2 weeks. And the third week. Yeah. If for whatever reason you struggle to reach that, write to me. We'll do like an individual assessment of where you are and what's going on, and we'll take it from there. You know, hopefully, yeah, see what you can do to get it done, right? And as I said, mostly for your own learning, right? In all of this. May 24th. Doing a little bit of a new thing of a day of interviews where you will be asked. So it'll be Caro. How many of you met Caro before?
She was here.
Yeah, she was here. Yeah, she's here. But also doing
How
the
does she look like?
like Caro. Put up a photo, but whatever. She was also in the Selling Tech Challenge online, right? When was she here? She was here in the very beginning?
JavaScript.
I think she was here like twice. Yeah.
I remember only once.
Yeah,
Is it
this
the girl
is the
with
first
short
time.
hair?
No.
This
The
black
first
hair.
time, like she come to introduce
Okay.
herself and
You
like,
think
Let's-
that's the same one?
I
Where is
remember
her?
it's twice. It's like
Yeah, but first time I don't remember. Only in
Oh,
JavaScript.
Caro. Does she have a photo on?
yes.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
I think we
It's a
cannot.
bit of a weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we zoom in on this? No. Okay. This.
She's writing homework task for us.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Is that
Also.
a mustache?
Yeah. This is the thing. Okay, but anyways, Caro will be there, and then you're gonna be doing
a 15-minute interview with her where she's just going to ask you some questions about your meal sharing app to explain why you put things together like you did. Maybe about some individual lines of code, whatever. Just quick 15-minute thing to see, also kind of as like a mock technical interview, right? So you'll be asked to explain like some lines of code. If something is not working, of course, she'll dig into that. She's a tough cookie cow, so it'll be a good exercise for you.
So it's on Wednesday, it's like by Google appointment.
Yes, exactly. So tomorrow, I'll send out a link where you can book yourself in.
Okay.
Yes. If there's something with planning, this and that, we'll figure it out. It's gonna be during the day, different slots. Please, for those of you who are not working that day or have, if you have school and stuff, leave it.
But
Yeah,
it's
for
like
them.
it's a good to almost it's like it's a 21,
Yes, I think
23 and
it's
24 is
24,
3
yeah.
days.
Let's go.
So it's like 21, 22, 23.
Are you gonna be busy all day?
No, I mean, in 15 minutes, I think we will have some
Is it
rules,
21
so
and mine is also.
Yeah. Because it's the only day the cow can, so I think you have to work around it.
manage it, it's only 15
Yeah.
minutes, I think we'll have it.
Yeah.
It's not
Okay.
that-
But maybe we make an agreement that if you are flexible on the 24th, for whatever reason you're not working or something, just wait a little bit, let the others fill it in. We'll communicate on Slack about that, okay? But I'll post a link tomorrow. Kyle will post a link. You can go in and book, okay? So maybe right now, if you know that you're not working, just wait. Like don't sign up tomorrow. Leave it, and then for those of you who are busy or going to go to, you can book in when it fits, and then the rest can fill them in, okay? Is that clear? So just 15 minutes meeting online. Kyle's gonna ask some questions. You're gonna be asked to explain some things. This and that. Yeah? Make sense? I'm like you're confused or you're just.
We have one month for final project.
Yes. So on 28th, we're going to launch. We're gonna have a launch party. This is gonna be the launch of the final project with Thomas and the other final project mentors. We're gonna go to Novicell. Any of you know Novicell? Heard about Novicell before? Shut you have? Okay. It's an IT company. They're like consultants, right? Like if you talk a little bit about the type of business that they
I think it's mostly e-commerce, if I'm right.
yes, like online business. They help whoever else it is. Create websites, there's Plantoramas, web shop and so on and so forth. There are like 150 people just outside of Aarhus. It's gonna be, we'll travel and stuff, figure it out with buses and everything. It's not gonna be difficult, but we're gonna be out there. We're gonna do a mini company visit. Quick, Lasse, their development director, is gonna walk us around, show Novicell, the different teams. We're gonna see a surprise revealing of something out there, Hacky Future related. And then Lasse is also quickly going to talk about Novicell, what it is that they do, their hiring practice, and so on. Yeah? So we're gonna scrunch things a little bit together. Other than that, Thomas and the rest of the final project team, we're gonna launch the final project. And I think next week when do you want to talk more about what it is? Like, give a little bit of next Sunday, maybe? Now?
We can, but also like I wouldn't call it a launch because the launch is like when it's done, right?
Okay, yes,
So
okay.
it's more of a kickoff. And
It's a kickoff. It's a
And I
kickoff.
think the kickoff is where we're gonna present to you what the project is all about. And I mean, I don't really see the need
No, you don't want to do it before?
to spoil anything.
Okay.
But we don't work in the groups.
Yes.
In 2 groups.
4.
4 groups.
4 teams. 4
4
teams.
teams.
Yes.
So it's 3 people in each team.
At least that's the plan for now. So we're gonna divide into team. Yes. You will get all the information you need.
It would be like me demonstrating pizza. I'm choosing
Let's
the
see
good
about
one.
let's see about that. Let's see about that.
I'm choosing those that I can eat.
We're gonna put the teams together as we see like fit for the project and so on, right? Okay, but then no information. So what you're gonna be working on?
I am definitely the missing piece between Dimitri and Nikita.
You think so?
I'll fit there really good.
Yes. So we'll give more information on that, right? But also during Git 2, maybe you have to set some things up and so on.
I mean, it might be possible that you will see a repository link or something like that. So you can already clone the small project.
Yes. But we'll explain everything. You know, we're gonna have like weekly stand-ups also. And all the other details that there are information, we'll give them to you, okay? So just trust us on that. Julia.
Yeah, so on 21st of May, we have to go to.
Yes.
So shall we like, it's from 4 to 5:30.
Yes. This one, Raman, when is it that you can be in the house earliest? Is that
11.
Yeah, right. So this one, the 21st, we're gonna move it to 11:30. I will also communicate it out. You can already make a mental note. Now I've told you, but I will also write on Slack. May 21st, we'll do it from 11:30. Okay? 11:30 to 3-ish, so that the go-to people can go to their orientation. Right? At Dog 1.
Congratulations. Where is
Who's going to go to?
And matching.
And Mitchell.
Go to where?
Go to. Who is going to go to the go-to conference?
The name is.
So 6 people volunteering, no? Cool. Launch, graduation, I'm gonna communicate it out. It will most likely be on July 8th, okay, Saturday, so that you can bring your families and friends and everybody. So we're gonna be working on the final project for the 6 weeks, from May 28th to July 2nd. It's gonna be the last Sunday. And then we're gonna have graduation and demo day in the week afterwards. Yeah, so July 8th. The demo day is like we're gonna celebrate each other, the mentors, me also if you want to do something nice for me, and then each of you is gonna have to do a short 5-minute presentation on the responsibility or the task that you had during the final project. Right? Maybe we'll divide you into like teams. Like someone will explain what you did with the database, whatever. Firebase integration and so on, right? Whatever it is that you worked on, you will have to present, okay? We'll also talk more about that. We'll have, I think the last week or something, we'll do like a demo day where we go through your presentations and give some feedback and stuff. All of that to come, yeah? Just so you know, that's the initial plan. Is there anything about this that does not make sense? Or that
Where the graduation will be held?
don't know. Maybe Uber. Or let's see. Yeah. I'm trying to find a nice place for us to be.
Don't change that.
Okay. That's it. Cool. Yeah. Mechi, do you have any questions? Yeah, she does. She does. She does. She was. Yes, I also want pizza. Ha ha ha. Yeah, okay, we can do that. Yes, Mitch, you got that right. Yeah. With this. Bye. Thank you. New message. Yes. Okay. Cool. Think that's it. More to come on Slack. We'll post the link to the sign up for the interviews with Carl tomorrow, or whenever Carl gives it to me. Let me know. Yes.
Mitchie, I bet my left hand that you're in your bed and you're actually watching Netflix.
No, she's not. Thank you for today. Yes.
You just
Thank
looked at
you.
the word like, thank you for today.
Okay. Yeah. See you next Sunday. Yeah.
See you, Hannah. Thank you
See
for
ya.
everything.
Thank you.
We're gonna buy you a great gift.